lectures are supported with grants from the Arkansas Humanities Council, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Quapaw Nation, and we also received an anonymous gift this year in honor of Carl Miller to support the lectures. So we appreciate that very much. And also use of this facility by the architectural firm Cromwell Architects. They do subsidize use of this space, which we appreciate very much. And I want to note also, I don't want to read them, but acknowledge our corporate and landmark members. They're on the table as you came in the door, or it'll be on your right as you leave. You take a look at that and recognize the contributions that we get from our supporters. And certainly if you are a member of the QQA, we appreciate your membership. If you're not a member, Shelley can take care of that for you instantly. Or you can go home and take care of it at quapaw.com. I am really excited to introduce our speaker tonight. This is Betty Gaedtke, and I was looking back in my calendar to figure out when we met. Betty was part of a tour group of tribal elders, Quapaw tribal elders, that came to Little Rock last October. And so we met actually on October the 3rd. And I think right at that time, we had a lecture. Bill Worthen gave us a wonderful talk, and they looked around Curran Hall. And then we talked right after at that point, because you gave me your card, and we talked about Quapaw Pottery, and even the possibility of doing some kind of a presentation. So, so I'm glad this has come to fruition, that we were able to put this together. Now, let me get to the introduction. I'm happy to introduce Betty Gaedtke, a member of the Quapaw Nation and former Quapaw Tribal Council member. She's a renowned Quapaw potter and has been instrumental in starting a pottery program for her tribe. Pottery was a very important part of the Quapaw culture and was all but lost in the past. Betty is here to share some of the Quapaw Nation's history and the history of Quapaw pottery, some of the most sought-after Native American pottery today. I'm pleased to introduce her, and also note that shortly after we organized her speaking, some of her pottery is at the Historic Arkansas Museum, because I got in their mailer one time. It was just serendipitous that they also have it at the Historic Arkansas Museum. So without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Betty Gaedtke, Quapaw Nation.
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Betty Gaedtke. My Gaedtke name. Gaedtke is really the correct pronunciation for Quapaw. You know, Quapaw's turned into kind of a little slang name, and it's been spelled so many different ways over the years, depending on what scouts were writing about us. But my Gaedtke name is Temishika, which means little buffalo gal. It's actually little buffalo woman. I've called myself little buffalo gal several times before. But you know, there's different words. There's several different meanings on some of them. But I am proud to say that I was named after my great-great-grandfather, Gaedtke, who was buffalo calf. And just to start with, I might as well come out. Oh! You know, that is just so me. That is me now. Not that you haven't seen my dress, but this is just an everyday Quapaw dress. This is what the women wear at our annual powwows. So, and I am happy to say that we just celebrated our 147th annual powwow in Quapaw, Oklahoma, which is where we reside now. And it's not the biggest powwow, but it's the oldest powwow in the country, and that's worth bragging about a little bit, I say. So, but this would be a typical dress. Over the years, they've gotten a little colorful. Every year, you know, our girls that come out in jingle dresses and whatnot, they're sparkly and, you know, and it's just, you know, it's just fun. So, this is not what the Quapaws wore back in the 1600s or the 1500s probably. As a matter of fact, some of the writings that talked about the Quapaws said that the Quapaw women were usually topless and sometimes didn't even wear skirts. I guess the weather dictated everything, and sometimes the men didn't wear anything. But sometimes they did when it got nippy. So, so we've evolved. Christianity came through and they said, you know, you need to cover up, and so we do, and this is what we have. It's probably from the era of the 1800s when they were trying to get the Indians to look more like the non-Indians or the white people. So I don't want to offend anybody. I'm, usually not politically correct. I'm from Arkansas up north, so we just say it like it is. So I'm going to carefully go back here. So I am an enrolled member of the Quapaw Nation. I'm going to try not to slip up because I'm 65 years old in 30 days, and I've called it the Quapaw tribe all my life. This year we decided we're the Quapaw Nation. We voted on it, and it's a done deal. So I'll try not to slip up. But I am an enrolled member of the Quapaw Nation, and I'm also a former member of the Quapaw Council. I ran for office 7 years ago, and oh my gosh, I won. And next thing you know, and they waited until I moved, almost 3 hours from there. And then I ran, and then I won, and now I'm on the highway, I-44. That is a scary highway. So I am also part of the Buffalo Clan. My grandmother, her name was Nora Buffalo Brock, and she was one of the last pureblood Quapaw Indians, which she passed away in 1987. And she was the oldest of the last 8. What would that feel like? To know that your tribe, that we're just down to our last handful of purebloods. Now, when I say pureblood, that's the old timers would say 100% real Quapaw. You can be a full blood. You can be half Quapaw, half some other tribe, or any fraction that you want it to be, and you can still call yourself a full blood. But purebloods, all Quapaw, we don't have any left, and that's really hard for me to even talk about because I've watched this happen in my lifetime, and my grandmother was a big influence on me, and so was my mother, and there was, when Grandma passed away, there were 7 female and 1 male. And since then, now they're all gone. 4 months ago, I lost my mother. And my mother found herself in the same exact place that my grandmother was 32 years ago. My mother was the oldest living half-blood of our tribe. I was really proud of her. Man, she was a sassy mess, let me tell you sometimes. She was 90, and I give her that half. She was 90 and a half years old, and, she really taught me a lot over the years, So it's important to me to keep what I know and what I've learned all of my life, to keep it going. It means everything to me. It's really why I'm standing here in front of you today, which, by the way, I'm honored to be standing here talking to you about my people and my tribe and my family and our pottery. So I'm humbled. So again, my great-grandparents were Joseph Buffalo and Seanie Brown Buffalo. Now, Seanie Brown does not sound like an Gaedtke name at all, does it? And that's because it's not. And back in that era, if people could not pronounce your name, they just took it and they gave you what they could pronounce. Hence the Brown. Brown, Smith, White, that was the name she was given. And I've tried for many, many years to find out what her God-given name was. And it's gone, just like our purebloods. It's gone forever. So, one of the things about the Quapaws is that we were not a nation that handed down our history in writing. We did everything from verbally, and so generation after generation after generation, all of those ways were handed down. But when we came across, the French explorers, they brought disease to us. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm not looking at my paper here. So this is what I've been known to do. So let me just go back to my great-great-grandparents, Tashika, which was Buffalo Calf, whom I am named after. and Gaedtke, and red sun Quapaw, and Watashika. They're all pure blood Quapaw. I come from a really long line of pure blood Quapaw. My grandmother was the first to marry outside of our tribe. And the reason she did is because less than 200 people made it to Oklahoma when we were relocated from our home place here. And, you know, you lose a lot during all that. Most of them that made it were related to us. So we had to start marrying outside of our tribe in order to go forward. And, well, it was a sad thing, but my grandmother went a step farther. She decided she didn't even want to marry an Indian, so she married a white person, which is fine with me. And my mother did the same thing. So, I'm a quarter. And unfortunately, there's less than 425 quarter bloods left in our tribe. So, you know, it just makes it that much more important to me to keep what we have going, our ways, you know, keep them alive. So let me just tell you a little bit about the Quapaw Indians. The Quapaw Indians are a branch of the Sioux from the upper Ohio Valley that broke away and went downstream on the Mississippi River, hence our name, Quapaw, which means it's translated into the downstream people. So we settled in many places, from the Missouri Boot Hill down through Arkansas, along the St. Francis, the Black River, the White River, the Mississippi River, and the Arkansas River, hence the downstream people. So we numbered about 6,000 at that time, and although some estimated as many as 10,000. So there was a lot of us. We prospered very well in those areas, and our most populated area being along the Arkansas River, about 30 miles southeast of current-day Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So this really is home for us, and we had land here too, here in Little Rock. And of course, the main village of Ossetoy, located there, were the first visited by the French explorers, Marquette and Juliet, in the early 1600s, followed by La Salle, and then by the Spanish explorer Tonti, who built the fort there named the Arkansas Post, the first capital of Arkansas, for what, about a year. And now it's Little Rock. So, has anybody been to the Arkansas Post? Wonderful. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, the first time that I went to visit there, it just gave me goosebumps to think that my ancestors might have been walking on the same ground that I was walking on. You know, and of course the Ossetoy Mound, now that is really something, because I might have a relative in there, you know. I do believe that there's probably bodies in there. You know, that's some of the ways that we buried our people. And today, our funerals are still very elaborate. They still take us 4.5 days to get our people in the ground. And, you know, we suffer for our people. It's a hardship because we don't leave the body all that time. We sit with them around the clock. And that gets really difficult about the third day when you're not really going on much sleep, you know, and a whole lot of coffee. But we do. And then our main service would be at midnight on the third night. And that's when the pottery goes in. That's when we paint their faces. That's when we put the moccasins on their feet. You know, give them their eagle feathers. We burn a fire for them. I mean, we literally still practice that today, I'm so happy to say. But somewhere along the way, we lost the part of the pottery. And all of my life, I've wanted to learn how to do Quapaw pottery, but life just kept getting in the way. You know, I lived about 2.5 hours north of where my tribe was located. And, you know, I worked, and then I got married and had a family, and then there was, you know, soccer and baseball, and pottery just kept getting farther on the back burner. And finally, one day, I decided to retire, and the first thing I said was, oh, finally, I'm going to start doing some Quapaw pottery. And I looked around and everybody was gone. There was nobody alive doing it anymore. And I'm like, now what? You know, who's going to teach me? But I did manage to find some really great teachers, and it was important for me to bring this back to my people so that somebody else wouldn't wake up and find out that there was nobody teaching. So my whole goal is to have somebody fall in love with doing Quapaw pottery as much as I love it, because it's absolutely my passion now. So I got on the council. I ran for office, like I said, seven years ago. And when I got elected, it was like, how am I going to absorb all of this? You know, I need to know it like yesterday. So I started sitting in on all of our committee meetings and getting to know our tribal members and what they were doing. We had all these different entities, and so it was a full-time job, just trying to catch up and learn everything that was going on. Well, I was realizing while I was attending our culture committees that the Quapaw pottery, there was a want for it, but there wasn't really any steps going forward on how we were going to bring it back to our people. And so, you know, I just started looking for teachers to come in, and you know, the chairperson of that committee kept saying, nope, that person's white, nope, that one won't work either. And so I finally just gave up, and one of our elders said, well, Betty, why don't you teach? I said, oh, no, I can't do that. And then I thought, well, you know, I could probably teach a child. So we started out teaching children, and I realized how easy it was to teach these kids. You know, they had no fear. And the more that they started taking the classes, the more of a need and a desire. So it just started growing. So we didn't really have the money for all of it, but we had all these different entities within our tribe. And so I just started going from, you know, our learning center to our drug abuse program to our Title VI where we feed people. I just started going to all these places saying, could you just buy a few tools for maybe 8 kids? And, you know, and they started pulling money here and there, and next thing you know, we're really getting on the ball of getting this thing going. But it took a couple years, you know, but now we've got this stuff strung all over everywhere. We've got, you know, tools in the museum, we've got some in the library, some in, you know, Title VI. We have to go all over, and then the kiln that they finally bought, we put in Pitcher, Oklahoma, which is a ghost town. I don't know if anybody's ever heard about the story with Pitcher, Oklahoma, but it was so contaminated that they literally, the government shut it down. They bought everybody out. So there's this empty ghost town. And so we put our kiln in the old fire building. But then the elders were scared to come there and take lessons. So, you know, it was working, but it wasn't working, you know, and I was pretty thankful for what we did have. So I went to our chairman on the last year that I intended to serve because I chose not to run for office again. I was living on the highway, and I was tired of being run off the highway by big truck drivers. And I figured one of these days I wasn't going to come back up off that dirt. So I decided not to run, and I wanted to put more time into just concentrating on the pottery for our people. And so the month, as I was going out the door, I thought I got nothing to lose. So I asked the business committee if they would give me the money to renovate the old maintenance building because we had moved them out and moved them downtown. So now we have a vacant building right on our premises, right across the parking lot from our administration office. So what could be better? And they granted it to me. So I was so elated about this. And it took a year. And I'm happy to say that we just celebrated in July over our powwow over the 4th of July. We just celebrated a year. We've been doing classes every month. It's just busting at the seams. You know, our classes are as many as 40 people, so we're definitely just busting at the seams. And I am thrilled to death that we have done this. And 5 months ago, our class, they all agreed, because it is Quapaw pottery, and that's the whole idea. Everybody makes 2 pots. We dig our dirt, we dig our clay from the dirt, we process it, we did everything the way the Quapaws would have done it 500 or 600 years ago. And then the ones that survived, which most of them did, we went and gifted it to the tribe, to the Quapaw Nation. And now, when we have a funeral, anybody that's Quapaw can go into the tribal administrator and tell her they need a piece of pottery, and it's there for them. And now it's back in our funerals, and now they're back in the ground. And I am so happy to be able to share that with all of you today. So I've completely thrown my program to the side. So since I've done that already, I might as well just move on to what we're doing here. Now, I brought some of these bags because first I'm going to take you down to the end of the table here. So 500 or 600 or 700 years ago, if you were a Quapaw and you were a female, because the women are the ones that did the pottery, and they taught their young girls how to do it. The men did hunting and they did politics. I think that's it. The women raised the families. The women took care of the food. The stuff that got hunted and got back, you think the men would have to do something with it, but they just handed it over to the women, so they processed the meat, the hides. They utilized everything there is on a bison, so nothing went to waste. And so I just want you to think about for a few minutes, because I have the luxury of going to a clay store and buying fabulous tools and clay that's already processed. I don't have to do anything with, but back then, they didn't have that luxury. And this is just about everything they would use to make a piece of exquisite pottery. And those were some of the words. That was one of the words that they used when the scouts were talking about the Quapaw and their pottery. Exquisite, beautiful, talented pieces of art. And that's really what the Quapaws, they were master potters, and most of the pottery that I do mimics what I see in museums, or I went to the University of Fayetteville, Arkansas in Fayetteville, and they have thousands of pieces out there that are still waiting, for repatriation and whatnot. But, that's where I get my inspiration. It is so sad to tell you that graves get robbed with this stuff, and all that gorgeous pottery, those thousands and thousands of pieces of pottery, they all came out of pretty much one place, and that's our graves. So, one of the reasons why I try to make my pieces look darker, try to make them look older, is so that they can sit on a shelf with an ancient piece of pottery and they won't just stick out like a sore thumb, Because I want to deter people from buying off the market, and because if there's no market, they'll quit robbing our graves. And thank gosh, there's a law against it now. But there wasn't always a law against it. It used to be legal to do that, and that's really sad. You would not want me to dig up your mother's grave or your father's grave or your grandma. So, for this, and a lot of the inspiration that I get to do pottery, I get from books, and these are all ancient pieces of pottery also. But you sit down maybe next to the river, under a shade tree, and these would be some of the tools that you would have. Although these, you guys are the only group of people that have not come up to me and said, "Oh, what are these mushrooms?" Not one of you have asked me about what this mushroom is. But, I know that the Quapaws made tools back in the day. keep reinventing the wheel if you don't have to? And so, you know, make tools, and quite honestly, I know that these tools are real because I ran across some recently. There's this wonderful museum, if you ever get up to southern Missouri, south of Branson, at the, what is the name of that museum? Top of the Rock, thank you. Top of the Rock. And they have some of these tools in there, and they're pottery tools. But they have, oh my gosh, they have so much pottery in there, so much Quapaw pottery. It is unbelievable. And of course, it's a part of the collection, you know. So, but my point was that something like this, I've also made buckskin dresses. And one of this is the pouch for my buckskin dress. And of course, you know, everything's buffalo for me. And so, but, you know, you have a set of tools that you would use for a buckskin dress, because I learned it the hard way. I have machines, sewing machines, and I was so proud of myself because, man, I whipped my buckskin dress out so fast using the machine. And then I went to get kudos from one of our elders, and she did not like that I used a sewing machine at all. So she sent me home and made me rip every single stitch out. And then she said that I had to do it all by hand, and to make it worse, I couldn't go all the way through the high. You can only go halfway through the high. So, yeah. But you have a tool set, and it helps. And I know that it's the same thing applies. Those ladies and those young girls would do, they would do their tools, their favorite tools, and they would keep them with them. And it would consist of maybe something like a bear claw, because this would be a great tool, along with maybe a deer antler, to maybe do some incising. Now, when you incise, you can see this pot, she's got these little decorations on it, and that is what we call incising. And they would use sticks or bones or feathers would be a good tool. Shells, they were really big on shells. Downstream people, always by the water, there was lots of these. These are mussels. These are really thin and strong and sharp. And these are great scrapers for your pottery. And so this would be something that you would probably find a Quapaw would be using. Now, clay sticks to everything. So I've got deer hides, and all you gotta do is wet them and put them in anything. I know that the Quapaws probably had wooden bowls because they were dugout people. They would dig out dugouts because they utilized the water for trade and going from one place to another. So I would start out probably like this. I'm not doing a demonstration for you, I promise. But you take your clay, roll it into a coil, and just start using your mold for a mold, and just start forming it. And when you get done, you can take two halves, or you can just keep working around it. You can stick them together and make one piece. So if you did, it came out with a ball. You could add a couple of them and have something like this. This guy, she is a human effigy, hunchback, hooded water bottle. So how about that? Now, what you would probably use something like this for would maybe be for seeds, because the hole is not at the top of the bottle. It's in the back of the bottle. So that tells me that they either don't want this to get wet whatever's in here, or they want to keep it dry, or keep the debris from maybe falling out of the tree into the top of it. So there are several of these hooded female effigies, and they're humpback. Now, I don't know why, but there's a lot of humpback bottles out there in the ancient pottery world, and I don't really know, that's the thing, because we didn't hand down our history you know, in writing, and it's all speculation at this point, and verbal. But one of the things that the women did, you know, we were agricultural people, so they would do corn, and some of the writings that I have read said 5 miles long by 5 miles wide. Well, we didn't have tractors back then. It was all done by hand, and it was all done by the women. So, you know, I'm thinking maybe these humpbacks are because they've been working in the field all those years, you know? Who knows? But she's kind of a cool bottle. She's a little wobbly because I try to make all the bottoms round. Almost all the pottery that the Quapaws made had a round bottom to it. And they say that, you know, for a couple reasons. Now, south of here, it's like sandy and mossy and swampy even. And I think that helped, you know, because they were just sitting around on the ground, you know. Or also, they say that the round bottom helps distribute the heat a little more even. So it might help whenever it's, when you're heating something up in it. So, you know, or even in the firing, you know, it makes a big difference because the success rate is not that great, you know, when it comes to pit firing. And a lot of times I will take, if I spend a week on a vessel, I really don't want to take a chance on taking it to the pit fire if I don't have to. I would rather put it in the kiln and kiln fire it and then take it to the pit and still give it the patina, you know. So, because the success rate was less than 50-50. So, you know, like I said, I wouldn't want to put a lot of work into it, you know, and then lose it in the firing. So, this is one of my first pieces. He's kind of old, and that's why he doesn't really match anything else because I've evolved since I first got him. But it depends on where you get the clay, too, because different clays are different colors from different areas. So, but this guy, he was a little on the lighter side. And then that's when I started thinking that, you know, I wanted my pieces darker so that they would look more ancient, so that they would blend in with other people's. Because if this set amongst a bunch of ancient pottery, I mean, you would probably see it 2 blocks away, you know. And so I've changed my style a little bit, but I'm still staying true to the effigy pots as far as animals and that kind of thing. Well, let's talk about, for instance, turtles. For some reason, turtles, there's more turtle pots than there is anything out there that they have dug up. Hopefully they're not digging up anymore. So frogs are right behind it for some reason. I think probably the turtle, you know, I've read that archaeologists that have been doing digs around this area and stuff back in the past, their trash bins are full of turtle shells. So apparently turtles were really high on, you know, their food source. So, and although I don't know why, because they would base bison and deer and of course, you know, any kind of cat. They had a really great balanced diet, you know, and of course they were doing, like I said, corn and beans and squash, you know, and they did it like the 3 sisters, where the corn went up and the beans grew up the corn stalk, and then the squash grew around it, and that would either keep the weeds out or keep it from drying out so quickly. Now, this guy is a head pot. There's less than 125 of these in existence so far. This would be typical. Not all of them have the tattoos on them. A lot of them aren't as elaborate as this. This would have probably been for somebody of high standing, maybe a chief or someone that meant a lot to you. And they have speculation about what this is, because most of these head pots have this knob on the forehead, and it holds this pointer. And I don't know if anybody knows much about the Quapaw Indians as far as who we were always fighting fighting with, but we were always at war with the Chickasaws, I'm told. And so possibly this might be part of the scout from, someone that they were fighting with. The tattoos was original because the Quapaws were known for their tattoos on their body, on their faces. They multiple pierced their ears. In fact, it looks perforated, but most of the head cots that I have noticed is that they have 5 piercings, and I don't know if there's significance to the 5 or if that's just because that's all they could fit in, or exactly what it was. But so this would be a typical head pot. It would definitely be for a funeral or some type of ceremony. And again, none of their eyes are really open, so that's what makes people think that, they are possibly for a funeral or dead person. So they're kind of creepy, great. I mean, they're like my favorite. I went through a stage where almost for a year, that's all I did was head pots. And I really don't have anything to show today because that's one of the things that just fly off the shelf. I think it's because they're so creepy great. So this is a dog effigy teapot. Of course, it's for water or tea. And I believe that, when the French explorers came through, they probably got that influence from them. But, of course, here's the handle. Here's the teapot. Cordial? Yeah. Can't remember quite how that goes. But so one of the things that the Quapaws are known for is the swirl that's on it. And the Quapaws were the only tribe that decorated in red and white clay. This is clay because we, back then there was no glazing or anything like that like we have today. So they would take different colors of clay, dilute it down to a liquid form. They would paint it on, who knows, with their finger or maybe made themselves a paintbrush with hair from an animal or whatnot. But they definitely are the only tribe. So if you see a decoration like this on a red and white pot, I guarantee you it's going to be a Quapaw pot. So, and of course, a water bottle. So, and I really think that this comes from, they use boards a lot. And I think they used them for molds. They also used them to smooth out the inside of a pot, So, but I really think that this is where that look came from, So, this guy right here, this is a stirrup pot. This is something that you could hang from a tree or whatever, and I'm sure it just holds food or, whatnot. So, but you can hear how thin that is. The Quapaws, one of the things that they made is so thin. And to be able to get your pot that thin, I mean, you have to be a master, because this is hand-built stuff, and it's just, it's amazing what they did with what's possibly on this table right here. Now, the reason they get it shiny like this, river rock, burnishing, it's a technique that they use when it gets to the leather part stage, which I'm sure you probably don't know what that is, but it's not completely dry, but it's not this stage. So you can squeeze this and make a form of this. So it's not completely dry, but that's when you would do the decorating, the incising, or the painting on it, And then you want to take a rock that's smooth, and you just want to keep doing this to it. And you can do this for hours or days, and the more time that you put into the burnishing, the better outcome it's going to be in the end. Because, one thing you don't really think about when you're living out there, how do you clean your dishes? Have you ever thought about that? I know they took them to the river and rinsed them, but I think that's as far as it got. I don't think they had Dawn dish soap yet, so, it made a difference. So, one of the reasons why you would have to burnish to the point to where it's so slick is to help keep the food off so that you can clean your dishes. And typically, they just moved on because it got to the point to where, you know, you keep eating out of them and storing in them and stuff. Salmonella. Did I pronounce that right, honey? He keeps correcting me. Betty, that's not how you pronounce it. Well, I do, because I've done it so long. Does anybody have any questions? I could just keep going. Yes?
The graveyard,
Yeah.
so they bury things with the ancestors or when he passed? Can you talk a little bit about that? You said that they would take the, they would go into the graves and take out all those people. Did you say that?
No, I was,
What was that about?
say that again, because I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're
You
asking.
say, you told me what happened with the graveyards. Repeat that piece.
You mean whenever, when they find the pottery? Oh, you mean at our funerals?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, yes, okay. Well, we do what we call a bundle. And what you do, and this is ancient, we've done this for hundreds of years. This is one of the things that we have managed to save and keep going. But we do, when we have our funeral on that third night at midnight, we do a bundle. And you go and you take a piece of fabric, and we always put a dish in, personal items for this, for whomever it is. So you want to put dishes in, you want to maybe put some clothing in, piece of pottery, sometimes tobacco. I mean, it's not always the same, but you always put in your dishes, and you always put in a personal piece of clothing and that thing, and a piece of pottery. And other than that, it's individual. So,
Was there a ritual for it? I mean, was that to take to the next world, or do you think there was some symbolism?
it helps it, well, see, we feel in our tribe, we feel like it takes 4 days for our bodies to make it home. So what we do, we eat every 6 hours, by the way. I mean, you can gain 5 pounds from going to a Quapaw funeral, I'm telling you. Because we don't just eat like a hamburger. We have a full-blown meal, and it's, you know, Indian corn, and beef, and fried bread, and great dumplings, and, I mean, tons of food. And we do this around the clock for days, because every time we eat, we help that body make its journey up to the Creator. And when we put the pottery in the bundle, we also have the option to put it on the left or the right shoulder. And if you do any research on bodies that have been dug up, they usually always find a piece of pottery on the left or the right shoulder or both. And an option, and they're also finding it for feet. They find more on the shoulder than they do on the feet. But we would put that piece of pottery probably in the bundle if we didn't put it on one or the left side of the shoulder. And of course, we always send them with an eagle feather, you know, because we just believe that the eagle is the highest and the closest to God. So they go with the eagle feather as well. You had a question?
I'm curious about who is taking the classes now. It was limited originally to young women or
We
women?
started out with kids, and then we had such a request for adults. So right now we're doing adults, but we did a child's class over the 4th of July while we were at the powwow.
Both boys and girls?
Yes, boys and girls. Yeah, yeah. Actually, we had a lot of guys that are really interested in Quapaw pottery, and you know, I say, come on in. You know, so yes, ma'am.
Is there a significance to the design of the spiral that's multiple pieces?
Well, you know, they're still trying to figure out why they did the swirl. And because, you know, the thing was, when smallpox came through our tribe, it wiped out 70% of our tribe like that. So much information went to the grave at that time. And what we are holding on to, we're holding on by a thread, trying to keep the remnants, you know, that did make it to Oklahoma. You know, we're still trying to keep those alive and keep them going. So we don't know what the significance is of the swirl. I've even asked, I've asked other people, and, you know, they're just like, we don't don't know. We just don't know. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Could you go into, you talked about aging, or have you darkened your process for that?
I take them out and pit fire. I don't take and put them in the ground and pit fire them for like a 24-hour period or a 12-hour period and then, wait until it cools off and all that. It's so easy to pit fire once you've brought it to that business fire stage, because once they've done that, they're glass. So, that takes them up to like 1,800 and some degrees. So you don't really have to worry once it comes out of that about hurting it in a pit fire. And I usually will put oak leaves and pine needles and pine cones and, and if I want a different effect, I'll use like newspaper. I don't know if you've done that before, and it kind of gives it a really cool flash, so to speak. Something like this. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if you could describe if a pot is not coal fired first, what's the process like to pit fire a piece of pottery from start to finish?
Well, if you want to do it from start to finish, rule number one, most important rule, it better be bone dry because, water is the arch enemy. So you would dig yourself a hole, and I would start by building a fire there, and I would have my pottery on the outside of it so that you don't shock it, and you just kind of turn it, kind of bring it up to temperature. This is how we did it at the tribal office. And then as those coals go down and go into coals, then you want to put your pottery in there, and then I build more on top of it, and then we just keep it going all night because it's usually an evening thing. And of course, then you want to dig that away immediately and see what you've got. But if you don't let that pottery come down to the room temperature, so to speak, you can shock it and break it at that point. So it's really not a hard process at all. It's just time consuming. You can't really leave it. You need to stay right there and nurse it for as long as it takes. So, yes, ma'am.
Could you talk about the thinness of the pots? I'm wondering, because you do this with your hands yourself, do you think it arose from a practical concern about getting clay to dry in a humid atmosphere, or was it an artistic preference?
I actually think probably the humidity had a lot to do with it. It's hard to get stuff to dry around here. It seems like the farther south we go, boy, it's a humid one, for sure. I do think it has something to do with that, actually. Yes, sir.
What type, are you been experimenting with different tempers, or are you going with shell, or?
I have been experimenting a little bit with tempers. Of course, the Quapaws are really known for shards, grog, and shell, mussel shell. So we did some with the mussel. We did some with shards, just broken shards, and we did some with sand. And the most unsuccessful was the sand, actually. So it was fine. And of course, it's an experiment on how much you put in there. And I try to teach to not go over 10% if you can help it. I don't know if you've ever done it and what you've used. And of course, when you're dealing with students, some people you can tell 10 times and it don't matter. So, some of them didn't survive. And I think that was part of it, that maybe they either didn't know what the 10% was or didn't care, or, and so some of them actually came out and crumbled, right before your eyes. But the shell and the grog were very successful. And I actually like the grog over the shell because it just literally disappears and you don't see it. And I believe that's what this is. And if you look at this, you might see a speck here and there, but over shell you do, you know, I tried to get it as fine as possible. You know, we grind it down to as close to a powder as we could get it, and before we add it, and it still shows. So it's just meant to, I guess, you know. And that's another reason why we take these rocks and burnish into the pot, because it will push your timber into that clay, and that will also help with the shrinking and hopefully, you know, less cracking, less breaking. So, all right, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So you've moved to your new home, and the kiln is in Oklahoma. So are you firing your own work?
Oh, no, I have a couple kilns at my house, yeah. No, this is, the new kiln is in Oklahoma, you know, because that's where I go to do the classes. So,
But at home
I
you
can't get
have-
them to come to Arkansas. But no, yeah, I have a couple at my house, and there's one, it's crazy, I bought this one kiln, I've used it one time, because it's over in the garage, I have to walk across the yard. And here it is, too hard.
There's some more questions. I'm not going to cut the questions off because this is a preservation conversation, so please.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious if, I don't know if, like, I want to say the biggest question, but what is a question that if you could somehow get in a time machine and go back and like hold your grandmother's hands, what would you ask her, like some mystery that you've always thought, how does this happen? Or what
Oh
is
my
this?
gosh. Wow. I don't know if I could just hold it to one question.
Just a few questions.
You're by your face.